Road 1 class, group exercise, chapter 11, Road 1. Step 1, we need to open up the plan file to do the work in. So going back to project wise, we look at the folder structure, district CAD, design, Randolph folder, J2P0200, and we will be working in data 11. I've already opened up the plan, that way it doesn't take long to process, so it's open. We'll go ahead and minimize project wise, but that's the file you want to be in. From this plan, you can see that in the background we have the plan geometry that we've added before in chapter 4. We have our alignment and we have our terrain. What we want to do for this plan profile exercise, or what we're going to do for it, is we're going to actually create a plan profile file, bring in our plan file and bring in our profiles, and be able to create sheets off of them. So the first thing we'll do is a file new, no wizard, and OK. The important parts of this again is the folder. Make sure we're working in the folder that we're in. Make sure it's path to it correctly. The seed file, that's the next important part. So we'll click on the seed file and open up our select document dialog. Go into the folder pull down. We'll open that up and go to our CAD standards. And then we'll open up the seed files folder and then the design English folder. And that is where our Power GEOPAK files are at, and we're looking for the iProject 2D _ Power GEOPAK. That's the seed file. So we'll select it, hit the open button, and of course we'll open it read only. So we'll select yes to that. Next thing we'll do is we'll give it a name and a file name. So the name that we're going to use for this is plan _ profile _ the job number, J2P0200. And then, as always, we'll copy that name by selecting it, right-clicking, choosing copy, and then paste it in the file name area. Now, again, if you run Start Job, that file will be out there for you just to open up and go into and work with. But since this is the class exercises, this is why we have to create a brand new one. So we'll hit OK. It's going to prompt us to check in the file that we were in, the plan file, which we will do. And it'll open up the plan profile, which is an empty file. Again, with all the SS4 settings. Okay. Next thing I want to do is reference in files that we'll need to be able to create the plan profile sheets. So we'll go to the reference dialog, open it, and then do a tools attach. And there's several files that we need to bring across. First thing you want to do with your attach reference is make sure the folder is pointing to the data 11 folder. That's where all our geometry is at. So make sure that's there. And the files we're going to attach is the civil geometry, the corridors. Let's see. Corridors, land boundaries, the plan, the profile, and we'll bring in the terrain existing. So all that comes across. So you should have 6 files. We'll add them to the list. Civil geometry, corridors, land boundary, plan, profile, and terrain existing. And then we'll hit the OK button. And then we're going to get 6 reference attachment settings, so we'll OK through those. The defaults are perfectly fine to use on this. And then we'll do a fit view and make sure we've got all our geometry. So that's what we want to see right there. So go ahead and close out the dialog box and see what we have. Now you can see we have our plan file in here and all this geometry, and we have our land boundaries so you can see your right-of-way lines. And we also have our profiles out here. So we got Road 1 at the top and Route 63. We're going to our concern is Road 1 for this exercise. Next thing I want to do is check my pathing, my working directory pathing. So I'm going to hit the F4 key, bring up the element selection tool so I can just right-click in my screen in a blank area, hold for a second, and get my user preferences. I want to make sure I have not pathed anything in the working directory as well as the COGO directory, and they both are blank. And if they're blank, that means it's going to look for a GPK in this data 11 folder. Okay. It brings us to the next step, which is step 4. We're going to open up the project manager. Project manager is located in the bottom right. It's got the manager kind of looking at the clock. We'll go ahead and click on him. Now we'll bring up another dialog, the project manager dialog box. What we'd like to do is path to the project folder so that we can open up the PRJ. And the PRJ is a projects file that sets up settings for the rather large road dialog box. So right now it defaults us to the data 11 folder, but I need to go up a folder. So these double dots, if you double click on them, it'll go up a folder and you'll see all the different data folders that we use, but the one we're looking for is this one called project. We'll double click on that project. That will open up the location where the PRJ is stored, and you'll see it populate on the left side. Okay, once we have our PRJ out here, instead of OK and go on to it, I want to check some pathing on it. So I'm going to do projects, edit, and edit that PRJ location and make sure nothing's pathed out. Right now the working directory is blank. I will check the Kogo preferences by going to the preferences. Working directory still blank, Kogo preferences, and right now it's set to a data folder, a data 4 folder. So I'm going to clear all this out because I don't want it looking there. I want it to go to my data folder in ProjectWise and not my T drive. So I'll OK all that, make sure that's good, and then hit the OK button to process through. Next one that we want, we have to pick a user, and we're going to pick the class user that's out here. That'll load us a user, and you can see on the right side it gives us our class user and our operator code. Hit the OK button, and that brings up the rather large road dialog box. It'll give you a working alignment of MoDOT. None of this stuff is pertinent to what we need to do. So all we really need to do is come down here in the bottom left where we have the plan profile sheets button on this dialog. Okay, so we'll click that, and that is in step 7. And that brings us to the run picker. It's going to want to ask us to pick a run. So we're going to look at what we have here. We have a field mount here, an I-100, I-20, I-200, I-50. In this project, we're concerned about doing an I-50 project, but what we want to do is copy the MoDOT run. So we'll do a run, pull down, go to the copy option, and then choose the run option from there. And that will allow us to copy the MoDOT run and not overwrite the one that's out there. When you click that, it brings up to a select run to copy from. So we're going to pick the I-50 since we want to do a 50 scale project, and we'll hit OK on that. Now it wants a name, so we're going to simply call this Road 1. And you could give it a description if you want to. I'm just going to leave it at Road 1 and hit OK. And now you'll see in the run pick box, it's an option. So we'll go ahead and pick Road 1 and then hit OK. And that'll advance us to the next part of the tool, which is the plan sheet layout tool. And the large road dialog box we can minimize and get out of the way. Okay, in the sheet tool, there's a couple things you want to look at. It came up as I full plan 50 foot. We're actually going to place some plan profile sheets. So there's a pull down here. We'll click on that pull down and look for one that says plan profile, which is near the bottom. So we'll pick that plan profile, loads the tool up with that. And that is in step number 10. Step 11 is layout sheets. So from the pull down menu, we could do a tools, layout sheets, or you can do it from the icon. I've got a couple different ways to do it. I'm just going to pick the icon. And here, this tool, when it advances, looking for a GPK, we want to use our 200. You can always hit the little magnifying glass, make sure you got the right GPK and load it. You also get an option for multiple sheets or single sheets. In this case, we're going to do multiple sheets. We want to do the whole project, so we'll do multiple sheets. Next part of it is filling out the ports that we have. We have a port 1, which deals with our plan geometry, and a port 2, which handles the profile geometry as well. So first one we'll do is the plan port 1. We'll double click on it. That'll bring us up to the plan sheet layout port data dialog. And we're going to go with chain 1. Our offset will be 0. We're going to leave it right up on the baseline, and then we're going to hit OK to apply that chain to it. When you do, you see in the dialog that the alignment's been picked with no offset. You can also come down with that alignment selected and change the stationing. Maybe you don't want it to be the full length of that chain. Or here's where you can change it. You can also extend it. If your beginning station started at 9 plus 50 and some change, maybe you can put that some change in here and extend it out so that you don't have to worry about it starting on an even station. Okay, so once that plan's alignment's been picked, we'll go ahead and go to the profile and double click on it and set up our profiles. This dialog is a little bit more detailed. We're looking for Road 1. The profile we're wanting to use is the Road 1 propose. So we'll hit the pull down and go down to Road 1 PR and select it. The chain is Road 1, and the station, if you swipe through it, do a backspace, hit tab, it will fill it out automatically for you. And we're going to start at 0 plus 0, 0. And that is on step 12. The elevation we're going to go with is 800. I'll tab down the horizontal scale, and our horizontal scale we're going to go with is 50. Vertical scale is 10. We really don't have to fill this out. All you really need to do is identify the cell out on your screen by simply clicking the Identify Cell button, identify the red dash cell, and then accept in a blank area. So that's going to give us our station, elevation, horizontal scale, vertical scale, and more importantly the DP that we placed the cell at and what coordinates that we place it at. Okay, so once that's filled out, Road 1 PR, Road 1, we can hit the OK button, and that will populate the profile port 2. So once these two fields are filled out, we got our plan and our profile. The next step is to actually lay out the sheets. So that button is at the very bottom of the tool on the right side, lay out 3 sheets. So we'll go ahead and click it. And we'll see in the background, you can see 3 red shapes. This represents our plan. And 3 white shapes where our profiles are at. Now these shapes can be moved around, resized, and modified. We're going to leave them as they are for this exercise. Okay, once we get this finished, we want to go to the clip sheets. So once we get our shapes where we want them, this is going to be the plan, the other is going to be profile. They're out there. All you need to do is go to the clip sheets, and we have a dialog to fill out as well. The directory name, where are we going to put this? We're going to actually store this back in our data 11 folder. So if you hit the magnifying glass, go out to project wise, we're looking for our J2P0200 data 11. So you'll select that, hit open, it pads it in here for us. Now there's a sheet prefix name that we're going to use for this project, and it's PLPR underscore Road 1. And then we'll go ahead and put another underscore under that at the end of it. And the reason being is we have a 1 at the end of this for Road 1, and you can see to the right it's going to append a 1 for each sheet, so 1.dgn. And if we left it just Road 1, it would be Road 11, Road 12, Road 13. So we'll do a Road 1 underscore, and that way we'll get our naming convention to be good. Next thing we want to do is give it a sheet name, sheet title. Rotate view, we're going to keep it at that. Sheets per file 1, sheet range 1 to 3, we're going to do them all. Also we'll go to sheet title, key, and Randolph, and we always use caps for our plan sheets, title sheets. Then we'll give it a job number. And we'll also give it a match line. We're going to call this STA period and then give it a space. Okay, and that way when you get your match line out there, you'll see a STA period, then there'll be a space before it puts the stationing. Okay, we don't have to do anything else with this. We're good to go. So all we simply have to do is process the sheets. Okay, the sheets are done processing, so we're good. So in that process, what it did was it came through and it did a read-only file. It asked you one time, do you want to open it read-only, and that dealt with the title sheet. So you'll see that happen. Now that we're here, let's go ahead and open up a plan sheet and do some more work. So we'll go to the project-wise folder, open it up, and I can see that the PLPR Road 1 underscore 1, 2, and 3 have been created. I'm just going to pick the middle one and open it up. So I'm going to double click on this in project-wise. I'll get my check-in dialog to come up. I will go ahead and check in the file before. And wait for it to load. Now I'm going to close out of the plan sheet tools. We're done with those. I'll close them all out. You can save your settings if you would like, and so that run will keep some of those settings for you. And you can see what's happened. It's come out and it's created the file, but there's some work that needs to be done to it. There's a little bit of work. First thing that we want to do is clean up the references. We've got a lot of different references out here, and if you click them you can see there's a bunch, and what they are is duplicate references. You're going to get a reference of the civil geometry twice because it's going to show it in the plan and it's going to show it in the profile. Now sometimes you don't need that. You don't have to have, you don't need the references. You can just detach them. So what I'm looking at is I want to keep the civil geometry because it's showing in my plan view. If I go to number 2, corridors, and I'm going to change it to boundaries and highlight, so I want to get both. I can see that it's also being used in the plan port as well, so I'll leave that there. Land boundaries is being used in there. I don't want to detach it. I want to keep it. The plan is in there as well. Now if I get to the profile, there's not going to be any profile geometry that I need in my plan, so that's one I can take away. So I can remove the reference number 5, and the reason I can is because number 12 is profile as well, and if I click on it, that's my profile and it shows up in my profile window. So back up at the plan window, the plan view, I want to go back to profile, select it, and then right click and simply detach it. It will ask me if that's what I want to do. I'm going to hit OK. Nothing changes with the plan at all. Okay, it's still the same. The profile was not being viewed through that view or that port. The next one is the plan profile. If I click on it, that is our current DGM. We'll leave that one alone, but we'll look at the civil geometry. Now we're in the different port. We're in that port of the profile. I don't need civil geometry showing up there. Okay, that's a horizontal object, so we'll go ahead and right click and detach that. And then you got corridor showing up there. Again, you don't need that for that port, so we'll detach that one. Corridors is gone. And our land boundaries in our profile are not needed as well, so we'll detach that one. The plan, we don't need that. We'll detach it. Profile, we definitely need. That's got our profiles. The terrain existings, not needed. Plan profile we'll keep because that's the file we're in. And then the MO.DE is our boundary, is our title sheet, so we'll go ahead and keep it. So all the reference work's been done. You're just basically wanting to get rid of extra references that you have in there. Okay, now after you clean that up, the next thing that you want to do is turn on some levels. So under the level display near the top, I'll click on that, and I will always change my filter to used levels. Okay, what I'm looking for is I want to get some grid lines back in my profile. I don't see any grid lines out there, so I'm going to scroll down to where I see the MO.DE 2008 file. And you can see there's a lot of different levels in here. Most of them are turned off. What we're looking for is we want a profile grid line. Now, you got some full ones, and then you have some plan profile major grid. Turn them on. Those are the minor grids, and then the one above it is our major grids. So now we got our grid line. I'm going to turn off the minors. Not many people use the minors. I'm going to turn them off for this and just leave the majors on. But that's your plan profile grid lines is here. All full ones are down below, so if you did a full profile sheet, you could just turn them on and have all this on. But we only need the one for that. Next thing that I want to do is clean it up even more. And to do that, I'm going to use a right click and get rid of some levels. As you can see in the background, we got this red shape going around. So I'm going to go back up to my tree and click on PLPR Road 2, and then right click over the middle of this box and do off by element, and then I can turn off that shape that's showing up out there. It's gone. Makes it look a lot nicer. Another thing that you might want to do when we're done with the levels is this piece of text over here on the left. It needs to be modified or moved. We can actually open up a reference dialog, slide it off the side, and find out where that's at by hitting the F4 key and hovering over it, and that should be the civil geometry one, which it is. So I know the civil geometry. I can go ahead and highlight, and then what I could do is right click on it and make it, let's make it active. And so now you'll see everything kind of gray out except for that civil geometry file. So now I'm actually working in that civil geometry, and all I'm wanting to do is take this note and move it, so, and scale or rotate it around. So I can make a selection set out of it. And create a selection set. Okay, so the next thing we can do is take this piece of text and move it and rotate it. I'm going to move the reference dialog out of the way. Since we made that active, we can come out and choose the element selection tool. I'm going to do a new mode, but I'm going to use the method of a shape and just create a shape around this piece of text that I want to, or curve data that I want to actually move. Okay, so it's selected. I can tell in the bottom right it says 11. So I got 11 items. Come over to the move tool and grab it. I left click, move it to where I'd like to see it. Right click, I'm finished. And maybe rotate it. So if I do a rotate, and I can do by 3 points, and using AccuDraw, make it active, I can AccuSnap to 1 point, AccuSnap to the next, and just rotate it down on that axis. And then right click, I've rotated it. Now if I need to move it again, I can simply just come over to the move tool, which I'm going to do, and grab that curve data and move it out of the way so it's not on any kind of lines or anything. Okay, and it's moved. So the next thing you want to do is go back to reference dialog and deactivate it by either right clicking or taking that little toggle off, and I'll deactivate it. It momentarily goes over, and now you can see we have we have a Road 2 curve data out there for it. The last thing I would do to this, and it depends on you, you got notes and everything else you might want to place on there, but the last thing I do is place the north arrow. North arrow is pretty simple. As long as you have AccuDraw up and running, we can go over to the tasks. Let's see if I can remember where the stuff's at. I'll go to MoDOT Design CAD Standards. I open that up. That's general annotation. I want to go to graphic scales and north arrow on my task, and then I'll click on the north arrow. Now this annotation scale makes a difference. Right now it's set at 100. We did 50 scale sheets, so I'm gonna go ahead and make it down to 50 so my arrow doesn't come in too large. I'm gonna go task, north arrow. Once you select it, it's going to go out and pick that cell up, and it's going to be on my cursor. Okay, So with AccuDraw out there, you can see right now it's cycled to the correct north, but sometimes it's on the view, which would be a V, so it's straight north, which you don't really want for a plan sheet. You want the true north of where this geometry comes from, so you can hit the T for top and then place that north arrow wherever you'd like to place it. Just simple left click and then right click your finished placing that, and there's your north arrow. And that pretty much sums up how to cut plan and profile sheets.